I was able to scan the QR code of the sticker as well as the original, and they are different websites, and the sticker did go to a malicious website. So
Wow.
it absolutely was a true video and a true QR code attack. I verified it myself.
I did it myself.
Yeah. So
Shake and bake, and I hail.
that's right. I'm a security researcher.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax, HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name is David Sims of HIPAA for MSPs, and joining me is Donna Grindle from Carden. Are you feeling better this week, Donna?
Yeah, I think I'm finally turning the corner. You know,
Good.
shit just
Good.
drags. It just drags.
Yeah, you sound better.
Yeah, well, we'll see. As long as you don't make me go into a coughing fit for making me laugh. You know,
I can't promise that. So, but you and I both were in a conference this week, separately but together.
Yes.
So it was a virtual conference. We mentioned it a little bit last week, and so we were attending the OCR NIST conference, and it was a 2-day conference. And we're not going to cram 2 days worth into one episode.
No, because there was a lot.
Yeah. In fact, there's probably a lot that we'll leave out, but we will probably split this into 2 episodes, probably back-to-back episodes, depending on what happens between now and the next time we record.
I know. Yeah. I'm looking forward to hear, because we had a couple of the club members that were also in this conference, and we were chatting a little. So I'm looking forward to getting their feedback on what we got out of it versus what they found interesting. But hadn't had a chance to talk to them. I mean, it was like yesterday. So
Yep.
we're hitting this quick, get this one in, then we get a break and put the other one in.
That's right. So we're gonna dive right into the content here. Before we do, though, I want to say thanks to all those folks who are listening. And if you want to find Donna or myself, you can go to helpmewithhipaa.com. You can find how to get in touch with either or both of us and our respective businesses doing our respective things, respectively.
Yes. We're going to have another episode. I mean, my company does training and consulting and assessments and all of those things. And people, David's company does security and support and, builds and manages your infrastructure stuff. And people still don't know what we do. Anyway.
Yeah. We just talk. Yeah. So it is how we roll. All right. So let's dive into it. We've got a couple quick things to hit, and then we'll jump into the OCR NIST conference. So the first thing is we do have a very short HIPAA brief. So just a couple of days ago, as we are recording, Change Healthcare notified HHS OCR that approximately 100 million individual notices have been sent regarding the data breach. And so one of the questions early on was, who's going to notify? So, we're finding out that indeed Change Healthcare is notifying.
Yeah.
So I got mine. I intend to frame it. I'm going to frame mine. And the reason I'm going to frame mine is because this is now the largest healthcare data breach in U.S. history.
But we knew that already.
Yeah. Which I'm sure that the number 2 spot owner is glad that they are now no longer number 1. So that would have been Anthem, by the way.
80 million. So, I mean, a lot more.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to win, go big, right?
And the approximately 100 million, I'm wondering how many million over that it is, but we'll find out later, I'm sure, at some point.
Yeah. It's always more. I saw somebody who posted, matter of fact, it was Ray Ribble, or it was somebody posting on behalf of Ray Ribble, because, he probably didn't post his own stuff.
He tries. Leave Ray alone.
He said,
no, don't.
He posted on LinkedIn, about the cost of the data breach and how they completely missed the mark by a ton of money. on how much this was going to cost. And, you and I talk about this a lot, where the initial cost and the initial impact is always much lower than it normally is. But the downside to it, and kind of my response to him on the LinkedIn post, was, even though it was a ton of money with a B in it,
yeah,
it's still not a lot when you have so much revenue coming in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we talked about that before, is, and still this cost, the regulators haven't gotten a hold of them yet. And there's going to be a lot of variables at play because of how this happened.
Yep. And we talk about that piece often too, that, the cost of a data breach is not what you see in the sexy headlines, particularly from, the OCR settlements. There's tons of additional cost outside of all that. And there will be for years, honestly. So, and that's for any breach, not just the big guys, even in the smaller guys, it's a lot.
Yeah. It goes out 3, 4, 5 years, even longer sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And also, 405D tip of the week. They dropped another resource this week. It's a new cyber hygiene poster focused on security operations and instant response. So we'll have a link to that in the show notes. You can go get that poster, print it out, stick it on people's doors, make them memorize it, put it on the back of the stall in the bathroom where it will get read.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
Yeah. So use all these resources as you train your staff. Use the podcast, use the posters, use 405D, use audio, use video, use everything, because you got to get them trained and you got to keep them trained.
Yeah. I mean, keep sending the message in a bunch of different ways. It's impossible to overstate the message.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
In a completely different conversation I was in, this has been months ago, so I may have already mentioned it, but we were talking about, not even related to IT, but talking about how many times you have to say something to someone before they finally hear you the first time. Mm-hmm. And there's some study that I can't put my finger on or point you toward, but they basically came up with 7 times. You have to tell somebody 7 times before they really hear it the first time.
Yep.
And it was a conversation about messaging and things like that. So I'm not talking about necessarily having a conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
Even though I can tell you, being a married man, it does take more than once most times.
I bet it takes 15 for your wife to get a message across to you.
Yeah, it is. It's funny because, when the kids were younger, how many times have I told you? But you know what? It's for everybody. It's not just the kids, because, my wife and I do it to each other. She asked me a question the other day. I'm like, this is the 3rd time we've had this conversation in 2 days. And she's like, oh yeah. So so the point is you can't get enough of the content and the conversation and the training to keep putting it out there. When your people start telling you they're sick and tired of it, then you just have scratched the surface.
Right now. They might be hearing it.
Yep. All right. So keep doing that. All right, let's dive into it.
Yeah. So there was a lot. And, they hadn't been able to do this conference since 2019. And so this is OCR, or HHS OCR NIST Healthcare Security Conference. And it has a big, long title, but we don't need to do that. The bottom line here, though, is you're hearing from the NIST folks who do the analysis and help figure out standards and take all the input from people in industry and work with all the nerd teams. We've given them information and supplied comments on a lot of things. And then with OCR, so you're getting the HHS, but also they bring in the FTC, the FDA. There's a lot of other folks, the regulations part of it that comes into play. And so they're all working together to get us some information and bringing in partners. So it's very interesting, especially now, just in the time since 2019, how they've restructured the cybersecurity management, because cybersecurity was kind of just blended in with everything before. And now cybersecurity is like, it's got multiple animals of its own within the there are people dedicated, and that is their job, to worry about specific parts of cybersecurity, not just all, but specific parts. And so we really got a broad overview when the Security Operations Center Intelligence Branch Chief under HHS gave us a threat briefing. And, it didn't hear things that you and I didn't know necessarily, maybe stated in some new ways that got my attention, definitely.
Yeah.
But a lot to scare people that aren't paying attention. If you haven't been paying attention, please do. Please.
Yeah. Well, this is one of the things too, kind of springboarding off the topic of talking about things a lot. You and I talk about these things all the time. And so sometimes it feels like, oh, we've covered that. Let's move on. But most people, the normal folks out there, they're not hearing these things all the time. You and I, before we recorded today, we're talking about how we're still talking about password management, but I still do public speaking engagements where we talk about password management, and people still don't know about a lot of things that changed years ago. And again, why you have to just keep pounding away at the same information. But yeah, even though we know these things are happening, you still have increased sophistication of attackers, the geopolitical tensions all over the place, causing problems because everybody likes to attack other nations or those who live in that. And then, of course, AI is making everything easier on both sides, thank goodness. But the problem is the attackers, I think the bad guys can use it faster than the good guys can use it and implement it.
Well, because they don't have to worry about ethics.
Or
integrity or any of those things. So that does make it a lot easier to go faster. Now, one of the things they did point out that in that list of the geopolitical tensions, and we know about the nation states, right? We know Russia, North Korea, Chinese attackers. I mean, they have elements of their military. Their job is just to attack the United States in any way they can. And our allies. But they also made a point of there's also folks out there that are attacking us because they want to gain favor of those governments. So they're there in these countries, or in countries where it might be advantageous to be friends with the Russians and the North Koreans and the Chinese government. It's going to be better for me. So I'm going to do things that will make them happy so that they will allow me to operate.
Aren't you proud of me?
Yeah. So it's one of those kind of things. So that's happening from a broad perspective, that a lot of these folks that are out there, they're just out there for the money. But they want to make these folks happy because these folks let them operate without messing with them. And it was, they want high value, so they want lots of money without having to work hard. Healthcare just yells that.
Now, I will say, one of the things that I wasn't necessarily shocked by it, but it kind of made me go, I didn't think it was as prevalent as it is. And that was when they talked about how a lot of these hacking groups are not formal organizations. They're more like a group of people that get together and they do a thing, and then they disassemble, and then later on they'll come back together. And they use the analogy of, it's more like a group of friends who decide to get together and go to a concert. And then after the concert, they all go their separate ways. But I knew that was a thing, I thought it was more about hacktivists more so than happening more often than I realized. But yeah, and which stands to reason as to why a lot of these folks are so hard to figure out, because they're not doing things all the time. Hey, let's get together. Hey, Avengers assemble.
It's and a lot of that goes back to their ability to let these. Now you have these groups that are out there, and all they're doing is getting access to machines and then selling it.
Mm-hmm.
So these folks are independently out there doing it. And then when they get, we got a good one, or we got several good ones, something like that. Then they're like, hey, everybody, let's get together and,
get the band back together.
Yeah, I know. Get the band back together. I remember, we went fishing. Everybody get together. We got a bunch of fish we caught. That's you and I know that world about actual fish, but they're doing it. They're having a big fish fry. They ain't frying fish that we caught. They frying us. So, but. Then there was the discussion about how AI is just supercharging this.
Oh, yeah.
And I like the quote. It's like giving a case of Red Bull and a bunch of experts for free to any group that wants to use it. And that it's like free bodies to use. And
they don't get tired.
Yeah, I know. They don't get tired.
They don't need a break.
Yeah, you got them juiced up. They go for days on end. And we've talked about Shodan before. And
yeah, I was actually on it recently.
Yeah, and how freaky it is. But it's there where you could just scan for things on the internet and get a list. Here's all these openings, and it's freaked us out when we've been on it before. I don't remember what episode it was. We did talk about it where we did get freaked out because we were, look, this. Holy crap, we're looking at somebody sick in their bed, in a hospital bed at somebody's house.
Yep.
And that freaked us out. So
it hadn't changed. It's still the same.
No, it's terrifying when you get out there. But it shows them all these ways in. They could create a list out of that thing, which you can do. It's not that hard. We're used to, then you'd have to go through and figure out what was valuable. Well, now they can dump that into AI and for free or very, very cheap, get a list. Boom. Here you go. Whatever you're looking for. And that we've already talked about how they fixed the bad grammar. And it's like all of the things that we've learned to watch for, AI's fixing that. But then they talked about some of the free stuff with AI, which I hadn't really thought it through. I mean, it makes sense. Where they said that in one case where they use Canva, so I can get a free account with Canva anytime. Describe something. So they describe, okay, I want a coupon for free something at a coffee shop, whether it be Starbucks or whatnot, blah, blah, blah. And it will then, AI will make it and make it look legit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that might have been in the same area when they were talking about the QR code phishing or quishing, whatever.
Quishing.
But that's a big problem because most people don't really look at where the QR code's taking them when they hit it with their phone. So it's very common for restaurants, scan the QR code for the menu. Scan the QR code for if you're going to park somewhere. You're starting to see QR codes everywhere, and that's a bigger issue because you can put whatever you want in there and then change it.
Yeah, and you just peel that little sticker. You see that where people, the video where it's like catch the edge and peel the sticker off.
Yeah, I don't think I told you about this, but there was a thread, I believe on LinkedIn, we had the video, and a lot of people were talking about how this was probably the company that did that because the QR code changed and they just went around and putting stickers on it because it was the exact same size to cover it. And so there was a big conversation about that. Well, I was able to take the video and frame by frame, I was able to get portions of the QR code enough to where I could actually scan it.
Right.
Because the guy's hand was all over the top of it most of the time. Anyway, short of it is I was able to scan the QR code of the sticker as well as the original. And they are different websites, and the sticker did go to a malicious website. So
wow.
it absolutely was a true video and a true QR code attack. I verified it myself.
I did it myself.
Yeah. So
shake and bake, and I hail.
That's right. I'm a security researcher.
But these are the things that are so tiny. It's getting hard. And they talked about, AI gives them that ability. They can just make a new QR code and I want it to cover this. It is not hard anymore to do this. And it wasn't hard in the first place. It's worse now. And they pointed out that they're not seeing the malware actually using the AI. That malware isn't necessarily the thing that has the AI in it, but it lets them code test like way quick. They're churning it out so much faster.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think I saw an announcement. No, it's not good. I think I saw an announcement yesterday that Anthropic just did a big update, and supposedly it's able to now code and test code, a lot better than it was able to do before.
Yeah,
so,
I saw that, and I'm like,
yeah,
I feel so happy and not at the same time.
Yeah,
but then because that had us feeling so good. The threat briefing then went into supply chain attacks.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's really our biggest threat because we don't have an effective way to know what's happening 3 down, 4 down, 5 down. And the human's still down in all of those.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all about secure the human, and we do better at it. And if we're not making sure the supply chain is also doing better at it, the point was, in the supply chain, they can get one key and open a bunch of doors.
Yeah. I don't know if it'll ever be possible
I know.
to really effectively attack the supply chain the way we should, or need to rather.
Attack it or protect it?
Well, attack the protection. the attack the problem is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't know, because how many people are actually asking the right questions? You and I numerous times have asked questions of some of the supply chain folks, and we very often get pushback. Like, you're the only one to ever ask this. Why are you asking these questions?
Yeah.
We do business with all these other folks, and they don't have a problem with it. So that tells me that there are few, if any, people that are really, really pushing, your due diligence on these folks. I just had a conversation with a backup vendor earlier this week, and I asked them about their HIPAA compliance, and the answer I got wasn't good.
Uh-oh.
It was basically, yeah, we do that. You can use our tool, HIPAA compliant manner. We do security. I sent them the Cardin due diligence survey, and I'm like, these are the questions I expect you to be able to answer. And I got a 2-sentence reply to that. So I'm like, okay, next, move on.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah. That's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, when somebody asks you 50 questions and you get 2 sentences as a reply, that's not good.
Well, and what I would want to see is, what? We get a lot of these requests, and here's our, due diligence that we have with all of the details. Will that suffice, or do you really need us to fill out your questionnaire? I'll take that any day. Any day.
Yeah, something. I was like, that's what I told him. I said, either answer these questions or point me to the resources that where I can get the answers from.
Yeah. Tell me.
Yeah, we do security. Okay.
I'm out.
Yeah, I was like, no, if I've got to beat the answers out of you, then I'm not interested. I'm just not interested.
No, it needs to be something that's built in. It's not in your culture if your salespeople can't answer those questions. So the thing about you're looking for backup because your backup vendor's been purchased multiple times and you want a new one.
My backup didn't have my back when I needed to be up.
Yeah. If it wasn't there for you, again. Yeah. But we won't let him get on that soapbox because it is not pretty, and I have heard it several times recently. Let's just say he's mad. If you want to hear about that one, that's a different discussion. We should have that discussion on the club or HIPAA for MSP's site. But one of the things they pointed out that they're seeing is that these attackers are tracking who's buying all these companies. We talk about, well, this one was bought by so-and-so, and then that was spun off, and then it was bought by so-and-so. And you don't even know who owns things anymore, but they're watching to see if some company is purchased by a company that they know Russian oligarchs are involved in. Because the minute it is, then they know they have a door they can use to get in.
Mm-hmm.
Because wow. Just wow. Wow. Wow a lot. That's it. So take that and add in there that they're also doing multi-stage attacks where they're like luring you in. It's not just this, spray and pray attack anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to get you to get to know them or to trust them, and then they're launching it.
Yeah, because, why wouldn't you trust somebody that you've had all these encounters with?
Yeah.
So, he comments on all my social media posts.
It's like there's a lot. And the new thing is 0-click exploits that are launched just when you go to a website or you look at a text message, lets them get into the device and they're able to scrape all the data and get out.
Yeah. This one is like, because think about it. Okay. You've got email that comes in and all you have to do is open it.
Mm-hmm.
So how as a human user, how are you supposed to know whether it's malicious or not?
Yeah.
Because what we've been telling people is you open the email and you don't click on anything. Right. If it looks fishy, don't click on anything. Now it's like, okay, what do you do? The only answer I have is you have to have advanced security on your email.
Yeah.
The security is going to have to weed this stuff out because the user can't even look at it to make a determination on what to do.
Mm-hmm. This is insane. So, And then you add to that, so they're making this money and the nation states are making the money so they can invest in their stuff. And then the criminals that want them to be happy with them also probably giving them a little slip of the side of the money. But then they're taking that money and investing it in things like quantum computing and more AI tools. So they're going to get ahead of us. We have to keep the pedal to the metal.
Yeah.
I mean,
this is
every
the part
day.
that's scary.
Yeah.
The whole quantum computing thing is the part. It's almost like whoever gets this first to be able to leverage it is going to, oh my gosh. And just for those who are listening who may not know, the easiest way to put this is to say that quantum computing is just the ability to do everything tremendously faster than it is now.
Yes.
So that's just the easiest way to say it. It's computers and computing power that is tremendously faster.
Like
so,
you can't even imagine how much faster.
Yeah. Like as an example, let's say you went to one of these websites and it said, put in the password that you want to check and we'll tell you how many, minutes, days, years, whatever it would take to crack this password on a standard computer or whatever, and you put it in and it says it's going to take 1,300 years to do that. A quantum computer could probably do that same thing and crack it within seconds.
Yes. Yes.
Now, I don't know what the exact number is. I'm just saying it is massively faster.
Yeah, it would be like comparing today's stuff to the UNIVAC systems.
Yeah.
The old mainframes.
It's 14.4 BPS internet speed versus 5 gigabit speed.
Yeah. It's
it's so much different that it's, you can't even fathom it. If you would have told me years ago when I was downloading images one line at a time that, you'd be able to play video, live stream video, I'm like, nah, you can't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, just recording this podcast, when we started doing this, it was very difficult to do.
Yeah. I mean, we would never record, the number of layers that we have. And, no way we could do the video conversations, back then.
Nope.
It was way too complicated. We had to keep the video off, and we had links. It was way more complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause most podcasting was all local. You just did it for yourself and that was it. So, doing it with somebody else was a lot harder to do.
Yeah, we were cutting edge back then.
Yeah, we're still cutting.
Yeah, we're cutting something. So, but overall, in the threat briefing, ransomware still big, and it's primarily for more money more than anything. Legacy systems are a problem in healthcare. It's great that things work forever, but if they're not patched and we can't secure them, they're allowing things to happen. Medical IoT, one of the big issues we're having there is you got professional products and consumer products. They shouldn't be so remarkably different in security, but they are. And so they're using the cheaper consumer grade stuff and putting it in place in some cases. That's leaving things open. And the data breaches, that's just going to keep getting worse, as they said. But he did make one point, and it was that zero trust is expensive, but the benefits outweigh the costs. And we're like, do you understand how expensive that is? I get the benefits. I do.
Yeah.
But I also get the benefits of quantum computing, but I ain't going out and buying nothing.
Yeah. Well, it's like anything else. It outweighs the cost if something were to happen to you. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm glad I invested all that money into that thing because that saved our butt. So yeah, I'm glad I bought the vehicle that was an extra $20,000 because once somebody slammed to the side of me, it was worth it. But trying to get somebody to understand up front that expense is necessary is very difficult.
Well, or telling somebody that they know they're never going to have that extra $20,000.
Yeah. But
they
zero
gotta leverage
trust
everything. So I mean, zero trust is the way, but it's still got to get better.
Yeah, and I will say that there are ways to do some zero trust. So I'm not saying stay away from it, because if your IT vendor comes to you and says, we got this zero trust architecture platform, don't just go, oh, that's too expensive. I heard Dave and Donna say it was.
Yeah, no. You should always evaluate it, because it's the way to make sure it's way better for us to protect you.
Yep. So there are platforms out there with zero trust. So there are things you can do with zero trust. It's not all or nothing. So just to throw that out there.
Yeah. All right. So enough of that stuff. Let's talk about something we find near and dear to our heart, is the FTC discussing how they're trying to enforce the I don't think a lot of people understand that the FTC has, as they call it, a sister health data breach notification requirement. And they can enforce things that are above and beyond HIPAA. So unfair and deceptive practices, that's a big piece. And they covered a lot of things, and they discussed this last year. It looks like they're proceeding, if you will, down that path. They had a case that they discussed that got my attention that we hadn't reviewed here. That is one with a genetic testing company that hit both their privacy failures and their security failures. Interestingly enough, the company renamed itself. It was called Vitagene, and now it's One Health. But they failed both privacy protections and security protections. And so there's one piece, the privacy piece, they actually did a retroactive update to their privacy policy, making it retroactive that, yes, you agreed to that one, but we're updating it. So the number of times you see updates to a privacy policy, you don't realize something. It would never occur to most people that they've basically negated something I already agreed to in one of those updates. Yeah, you're not allowed to do that. So they got them on that because they retroactively did it and then started sharing information in ways they shouldn't. And we're talking DNA and genetic information. But the thing that we were focused on in our security conference was on their website. They said, and we've heard this, we have rock solid security. And everything's in your information is collected, processed, and stored in a responsible, transparent, and secure environment with our rock solid security.
Okay.
Wrong. So it turns out they were storing data, 2,400 health reports about consumers and raw genetic data of at least 227 consumers, sometimes even accompanied by a first name. Not encrypted.
Publicly accessible Amazon buckets. So maybe when they said that your data would be transparent, that's what they were talking about.
It wasn't encrypted. There was no restriction of access. They weren't logging it or monitoring it. They didn't inventory it. Nothing. And to make it worse, and this is the part that made it even worse, is not only is your rock solid security not rock solid, but over a 2-year period, they were warned at least 3 times that this was happening.
No way.
And a security researcher contacted the company in June 2019, where they finally investigated the issue and realized, oh, you know what? Our bad. And notified customers.
That's crazy. I mean, it's crazy enough that it happened, but to be warned 3 times?
Yeah.
I mean.
But we've had that before where it's like you warn them and then they're like, no, we're secure. We have rock solid security. We don't even have to look.
Yeah. To that point, I have had times where I went to somebody who wasn't a client or anything. I was like, just want to let you know you have this security issue. And the response was, our current IT person says that's not an issue. I'm like, well, okay.
All righty then.
I mean, I'm telling you that it is. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. I would get somebody else to look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, okay, let's do a tiebreaker. I say you have a problem. They say you don't. Let's get somebody else in here.
Yeah.
And see what they have to say. But
let me show other people what I'm telling you is there. Now, but that's ridiculous that, but we know, we've seen it happen. We've heard it happen. We know. But so these guys entered into a settlement like they do in, the OCR and HIPAA, where they reduce the fines, and they go on a corrective action plan. I think it was $75,000 they paid. And then there was a list of corrective actions and things they had to commit to. And there were two things in that settlement that I made a point of noting. They must ensure any company that purchases all or parts of the business agree by contract to adhere to the provisions of the order. Number one. Number two, must implement a comprehensive information security program addressing the security failures. So after he went through all of that, then he said something else that got our attention. Go ahead, David. Tell him what else he said.
Yeah. This is not new, but they again stated that they have brought scores of actions against businesses that use HIPAA seals and not, but the ones you put on your website, HIPAA seals and HIPAA compliance claims. So for those, and we preached this I don't know how many times, but I'm telling you, for those folks out there, you've got this seal on your website about how you're compliant, you're HIPAA compliant. You've got some kind of compliancy claim on your website. I'm telling you, you better get that junk off your website. And I would be very suspect of the folks that are giving you those to put on your website.
I would at least ask him, why do you think this is okay? When the FTC is, have you reviewed your stuff with the FTC? Do you have documentation from the FTC saying that this is okay? Because I don't want to be the one that gets made an example of. And,
right.
That's it.
Scores of actions is what they said.
Right.
And
they're dealing with the people who are creating them and handing them out, as well as the people that are using them. They had that discussion, which is why when people say, will you give me a seal for my website? And I'm like, no, I'm not for you. If that's what you're looking for, just make one up. It's the same meaning.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't take much to go, just Google image search, put in HIPAA verified or HIPAA compliant or whatever, and you'll see these things pop up all over the place.
Yeah. You can just go get one. There's plenty of
well,
them.
I'm saying you can see where the sites are posted on.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there is no good reason to have anything like that on your site. From an FTC standpoint, and even from our standpoint, you're making a claim that you can't adhere to. But you can't tell somebody you're HIPAA compliant because you don't have the ability to say that. Only OCR does.
And even they will not say it.
That's right, because they know that you could literally be HIPAA compliant right now and then not before they get in their car in the parking lot.
Yeah. And what it takes, and we'll get into this on the next episode, of what they are explaining is required to meet your compliance obligations, which is a whole nother discussion. But we're running out of time. We want to get into this IoT and AI panel discussion. There were some things in it that we wanted to hit on. And there's a big thing. There were two different panels, AI all over the place. We've talked about AI ad nauseum. You get it. It's everywhere. But there was a guy who, if you've been to our boot camp, you'll know when David goes, I bet that guy's got a coffee cup circle stain on his back. Because we knew that there was definitely a thing. IT guy, when he walked up on stage, we know each other. But he made a great point about the difference between IoT security and IT. And I made a note of it because what we are focused on is security of the data.
Mm-hmm.
In IoT, which includes medical devices, you have to be worried about the security of the device.
Mm-hmm.
As an IT security person that's worried about, our normal cybersecurity things, you don't have to worry about the laptop blowing up.
Right.
When somebody's using it and the damage that can do. You don't have to worry about that necessarily I'm making this camera and it's going to be used in a malicious way, or overriding a thermostat so that it makes it too hot or too cold for an environment. These are all things that again gets back to what I always talk about. IT people need to understand it can impact people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
So if your failure in security allows it to get in, an attacker to get in, and then get to these devices, patient safety matters.
Mm-hmm.
And I did love the line, you cannot add MFA to a defibrillator in the ER.
No, you can't.
And there are times where you have to get with IT people and go, that's what we need to say. Whenever they're doing stuff that is like, I understand you're trying to be secure, but you're also not understanding that we do have to care for patients.
Right.
That needs to be the thing that we say. This is like adding MFA to a defibrillator in the ER.
Mm-hmm.
We got to stop. So, they covered a lot of things. And one was an example of a vendor site where the vendor gets an attack. So they just shut everything down because that's the safe thing to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're just going to shut everything down. Lock it down.
Right.
And in the meantime, all the devices that they use, I think it was the EKG devices. That was the example. All of them had to phone home.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, they had to connect to the vendor site in order to operate so that the cardiologist could read the EKGs. Well, guess what? Vendor shut the site down. So now every one of the EKGs that vendor supports no longer works. They could read things, but no one can look at it. And the point was that has to be in your SRA if that's how the tool works. And
yeah. I wonder how many people even know that. Like, do you even ask that question? Probably not.
I know. It is a key element that, in Hiccup, we talk about medical devices. And so often, I am just relieved when they're like, yeah, we don't have anything that connects. Okay. Well, one of the things that the FDA makes sure of is if it operates in a connected way in any manner, whether it actually does communicate or not, if it's in that system, it's a system within a system of systems. We have to make sure it's secured. We can't question.
Mm-hmm.
And with medical devices and all IoT, the big game, and I thought it was really important, and it's true. Everybody in cybersecurity talks about encryption and MFA.
Yeah.
But what really, really, really matters is patching.
Man. We talk about how hard that is.
Yeah.
I don't have enough information on it to talk about it right now, but I'll mention that I have seen recently as I think yesterday or the day before, there is a company now that is providing firmware patching as a service.
That's huge.
Yeah. So you're able to look at what firmware is out there and patch it. You could even do, from my understanding of the tool, you could even do a secure hard drive wipe remotely.
Oh.
Yeah. Which, think about that from a bad guy standpoint, though.
I know.
So interesting stuff coming out. But I think what it is you're starting to see some of these vendors that are saying, we can't keep our stuff updated from a firmware perspective, and we make it too difficult for an average user to be able to do this. Heck, we're even making it difficult for IT to do it at scale.
Yeah.
And so now they're figuring out ways to work with these bigger organizations like Phoenix Technologies, who has like all the chip vendors and everything. Mm-hmm. They've got a way now where they can start actually doing this from a managed perspective across all endpoints. So that's very interesting. And that's one of the things I got on my list to look at, because we don't have a way of doing that right now. We have to manually do all that kind of stuff, which is extremely time consuming.
Yes. It's brutal just to think of all of the devices that need it, and just managing my own in my house, monitoring always that, all the different things. And I'm always having to update stuff that it can't do automatically. So, but In the discussion about that, and AI is being built into so many of the devices and the EHRs and all of those kind of things. So AI just kind of fell across all things. But several discussions brought up that the AI vendors right now are in the shoot first, aim later mode.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. And we know, I mean, the overriding theme is speed to market. Got to get there first.
Yeah.
And that means no security.
Yeah. I mean, when you keep seeing folks like OpenAI where they can't keep people on staff that are, the oversight folks, I swear it's like
people are hiring them away.
Every other month or so they're leaving. Yeah. Well, some of it's that, but also they're quoting these folks when they leave. They're saying things that are
we're not giving enough
scary.
Oversight. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of scary. Like they're doing things that they shouldn't be doing, and they're creating the Frankenstein monster.
Yeah. And that we're not even we're just talking about generative AI, not artificial generative AI, which is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, that's the thing, man.
That's the Frankenstein monster for sure. And that's the next step that we're all worried about. But that's why they said transparency in AI will be the key to securing it.
But we're not there yet with transparency.
I know. We're not there with transparency about anything.
We're transparent that there is no transparency.
But it was good to know that HHS has an AI task force and that all these people from different areas are on the task force. So they are meeting, they are discussing it, because we know the value of AI is massive.
Mm-hmm.
But if we don't figure out how to manage the downside, it's going to be horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we already face it. But in healthcare specifically, AI has so much potential, and the value that we're able to bring, where we spent all these years getting everything to be digital. Now we got data out the wazoo. That's a technical term. Wazoo.
Do you secure your wazoo?
With a kazoo. All right. But anyway, kazoo is fun. But, that's the good news. And we put things in place like information blocking. We talked about the FHIR APIs, or they talked about it. And we have the certified health IT programs. And, but they make a point that these regulations that are over all of these tools and this technology, they're still 40 to 50 years old, where you couldn't even dream this stuff up.
Yeah.
Where we were making movies, still doing the flying cars. But, there were some really cool things of, we want to ensure that AI is working for us, not on us.
Yeah.
Which is good. And in January 1st, EHR vendors, and I like what they're calling it, they're required to provide a, quote, nutrition label.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask them. I'm going to start asking the HR vendors, so are you sugar-free? What kind of sweetener do you use to sweeten that deal? But you're supposed to establish transparency to providers to empower them to control the AI.
Mm-hmm.
And they're using the faves.
I know.
I was like,
I did have to roll my eyes though.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
I did a lot on that one too. But it's faves, But hey, you got to have an acronym: fair, accurate, valid, effective, and safe.
Yeah. And
we definitely need that. But there are it's a list, with details and outputs of these. They're kicking out all these things in the EHRs. Oh, we do this AI, and we're going to tell you all of this stuff and give you this intervention information, and blah, blah, blah. But they have to now give you certain controls of what it is allowed to do and consider, as well as how it can do that. What data, what input, what details are going back to them. And so watch for the January 1st, 2025 requirements for the nutrition label. It'll be interesting because there's like 9 things that they're supposed to do. And, we're going to have to start asking those questions because you don't know what you don't know until you start asking. And then you hear them go, yes, 2 sentences. We got that.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. All right. You want to make me end on a frustrating. Yeah. But yeah, so all this stuff is, we said before, is not going to get easier. But for those who are already working on stuff, it will be easier than those who aren't. So get on the bandwagon.
Yeah. Jump on.
Yeah.
So, and next time, unless something big blows up, we'll review the rest of the conference where we talk about the SRA enforcement actions, the HIPAA security rule, some discussions on small and rural, trying to get people to understand what they need. I thought that was great. And it was good to see folks that we work with and we know that are on these panels having these discussions because we know they're informed. So it was good to have that extra layer of trust that it's happening. So,
yep. All right. That's our show for today, folks. Be sure to share this out. We know you know somebody who needs it. So for Donna and myself, remember that HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
Help me with HIPAA. Let's get it right. Protect your patients. Day and night. Donna and David, the experts on your side. Help me with HIPAA. Let's get it right.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.